How long has caffeine been around? Hello, my name is Lindsay Kirk, and I'd like to tell you some interesting facts about caffeine and some side effects it may have on the body of different ages. Caffeine has been dated back to the Stone Age, and the Mayan civilizations chewed it or brewed it as a tea, and has been using it in its purest form since 1820 as a stimulant. Many of us consume caffeine daily, sometimes without even realizing how it affects our bodily functions. Many people use caffeine as part of their morning wake-up routine or for an afternoon pick-me-up. This is a chart showing what caffeine is in, a few things that caffeine's in, and how much is in so many ounces. Coffee, which is probably the most common, contains 100 milligrams in 6 ounces. Espresso in 1 ounce has 40 milligrams, and in stimulant tablets, 1 tablet contains 1 to 200 milligrams. According to AnimalNewYork.com, caffeine is one of the few legal stimulant drugs that is used by people of all ages. WordPress.com also states that caffeine has been part of our cultures for thousands of years, and each country has different sources of it. Because of this, we are learning different ways to use it daily. First, let's learn about caffeine and how we consume it. Caffeine can be found in the form of beverages, foods, and pills. It is a very abundant resource and can be found in over 60 plants. It also has a long history of use. One of the most common forms of caffeine in the drink form is coffee. Americans have been drinking coffee since the early 1900s, and statistics show that more than 50% of Americans drink at least 1 cup of coffee per day. And more than 80% of Americans get their morning caffeine fix by consuming coffee, tea, or a caffeinated beverage. A fun fact is that approximately 1.6 billion cups of coffee are consumed every day. The most common forms of caffeine in a food is chocolate. This is a very broad category because chocolate can be consumed in many different forms, the most common being dark chocolate. There are many new types of caffeine pills, and most can be bought in your local drugstores. In 1820, caffeine was isolated as a drug and became an additive to drinks and medications. These are all examples of how easily we can consume caffeine and get energy from it. Now that we know what caffeine is in, now let's learn about how it affects us. Caffeine produces a burst of energy or feeling of being awake. According to the University of Delaware research, caffeine increases your metabolism, but produces so much fat that it doesn't even out. Another negative effect of caffeine is that it is considered a gateway drug. Too much caffeine consumption can cause you to have jitters, heartburn, nausea or vomiting, bone strength deprivation, and muscle aches. Although it can have negative side effects, it also has positive ones. These are signs and symptoms of caffeine withdrawal. They include headache, fatigue, sleepiness or drowsiness, difficulty concentrating, work difficulty, irritability, depression, anxiety, flu-like symptoms, and impaired in psychomotor vigilance and cognitive performances. One of these positive effects is that it can reduce the risk of liver cancer by 50%. Caffeine is also one of the most commonly used stimulants by athletes. This is because it isn't monitored by the National Collegiate Athletic Association. According to the EFSA panel, the safe amount of caffeine for a child from ages 13 to 18 would be the equivalent of 3 sodas a day. In conclusion, caffeine is a stimulant used by people in their everyday lives. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that it doesn't have harmful effects. For this reason, it should be limited in the diets of everyone, especially teens or young children. It has been used since the Mayan civilization, and with that being said, it will continue to be used in our everyday lives as a stimulant for many years to come. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed learning about caffeine and its history.